Okay, we're gonna start part 2. And this is completing the application. And everybody says, oh no, no, I've heard about this. Okay, but most people, oh.
2 of them.
One of them I think is already on. But I do have to turn this one on. Okay, now can you hear me?
There we go.
I'm pretty sure the other one Greg never turned off because he's still recording and he's coming back with his lunch. Okay, so we're going to talk about completing the application. And the first thing I want you to do is not go online. And I'm going to give you a copy, will you pass these out, of the grant application template, which is a Word document that you can download. Has all the same stuff as what's online. What's online goes tab by tab by tab, and this has it all in one Word document. And it's a much easier way, I have found, a much easier way to collaborate with the people on your team when you're trying to put together your first crack at this. And you also, because you haven't put it online, you don't get help that you don't want when you're just putting down your first few words. Because when you put it online, then the big rotary world can see you. And so you start with this template. And it's editable, it's easy to share. I said that. When you have a good alignment and everybody agrees that this is what we're going to do, then you just transfer it field by field. Okay, so that's why I think it's best to use this. I gave you all a copy of it, and we're going to kind of run through it quickly, what you have to do. Okay, the first thing you do is you go through and say, hey, let's do the easy stuff. And the first easy thing is that you can go through here and you can delete about half of that blasted document. I think it's 11 pages long, and you can go through, particularly, if we're going to do a humanitarian grant. Let's say we're talking about a water and sanitation kind of project. It's a humanitarian grant. It's not a VTT, and it's not a scholar, okay? Vocational training team. If you're going to send a team, then there's a whole bunch of stuff in there about who's on the team and what are they going to do and why are they experts, because if we're not in the travel business, at least we don't want to be. And so VTTs are great, but they're only maybe 4 or 5% of the total number of grants. Scholars are really great too, but they're only 15% of the total grants. 75, 80% total of the grants are humanitarian grants. So if you're going to do a humanitarian grant, which is most likely, you go through and you eliminate all the fields in steps 6, 7, and 10 related to VTT and all the fields related to scholarships. So go ahead, open it up and find section 6.
By the way, if you put it out there electronically, nobody will look at it.
Well, sometimes, maybe not in your district. So if you go to step 6, see it starts off humanitarian project and there's one line. Then it says vocational training team and scholarship. You cross out that vocational training team and scholarship part. You only got one line to worry about. You go to 7, what does it have? Vocational training team, you don't need that. Cooperating organizations is next, you do need that. Yeah, but you're going to consider it anyway. Partners you need. Volunteer travelers, you probably don't need them, but we'll talk about that later. And then the last part's about scholarships, scholarship candidates. So cross off all the places that you don't need, because you'd be surprised how many times somebody will be going through this and they'll read a place with a blank that doesn't apply to your project, and they'll put something in anyway, because they think they have to put something in every blank. And you start filling in blanks for things that don't apply to your project, and that's when you get into trouble. Okay? And so you eliminate that, and now your 11-page document is only 7 or 8 pages long. Okay? So it's a little better. Don't you feel better already? And then you're going to fill in the fields that you can do based on your little 2-sentence description. And there's a lot of steps 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 that we can go through and we can fill it in, because we've done this homework with our partner and our beneficiaries, and we got a pretty good idea what it is we're going to do. And so let's start at 1. Okay, so what's the name of your project? We never talked about what the name is, but I bet you got a name. Okay, so put in the name of your project. You might have to have a big meeting in order to do that, particularly if you're an engineer. It may take several meetings.
Project name will be the rehabbing of Jim Ryder.
Okay, three words would be nice in there. That's good. Okay, the second one is what type of project? And you want to put in one word here. Well, maybe two. Humanitarian, vocational training, or scholarship. So that second line, what you put in there? Humanitarian. That's the kind of project. That's an important keyword because at the Rotary Foundation, that eliminates all these fields you're not supposed to do, right? They won't ask you those questions. So you want to say you got a humanitarian grant. Okay, the primary host and international contacts. These are people. And so you should have this from your communications. If you're writing it, you might be the international contact. What's the difference between international and host? Does anybody know?
Sure. International is the people.
Those are the guys overseas, right?
No.
But surely the international guys are overseas.
Well, they're overseas from your point of view.
Well, is there another point of view besides mine?
Well, yes.
Really? Really? Yeah, I thought I was the governor.
I know your ego is hurt. Sorry about that.
Okay, in fact, this is such a common problem on grants that someone in the US is writing this thing and they say, who's the international partner? And you assume the international partner is the other guys, right? Because I got to go overseas to see them. Well, if that's where the project is, they're the host and we're the international one. And that's happened so much that now on the grant application, there's a button you can push that reverses all the people on the international to the host and whatever, because so many people have gotten it wrong, and it's a pain in the neck to take it all out and type it all over again. So anyway. Okay, so here we are. Now we're through with step one, and we haven't put in but about 6 words. Okay, it wasn't too hard, was it? Step 2, committee members. You might not know these yet. But if you have them, you go ahead and you put in who are the people on each of the committee members, on each of the teams. Step 3, project overview. What goes in the one that says project overview? Read what it says about it. Yeah, we're only asking for a general idea of the project. Please try to be as concise as possible here. We'll ask you for details later. So you take your 2-sentence description and you plop it in there.
2-sentence up there earlier, right?
That's right, and that's what you plop in here. You've already done this. So now you're up through step 3, and all you've been doing is copying and pasting, right? Okay, now area of focus. You know this too. You know which area of focus you're working in? And step 5 is going to be measuring success, and you're going to start to get into goals. Some of this you haven't quite got down to measures yet, because we haven't talked about that. You might be able to fill it in if you've been doing extra homework for extra credit, but we're going to get back to that. And then the last one, step 6, locations and dates. Where's it going to be? You know that. Some information about your team. Oh, that's vocational training. You already deleted that. See how I'm getting into trouble. Okay, so that's the end of 6. So I think we're done, right? We have filled in all the stuff that we know how to do. We're probably down to 3 pages left. Okay, so now let's talk about the players and what you have to do there. These are some in step 2, the committee members. We talked about who's the host and who's the international one, and you got to have these. You have to have 3 in each committee. And then step 7, you've got cooperating organizations, partners, and volunteer travelers. And so let's talk just a minute about those things so you know what they are. A cooperating organization is an organization that's not a Rotary group, but it's helping you with your project. And so it might be somebody who has technical expertise. You're going to drill a well, and you need somebody who is a well driller. And in the case of Scott Shanks, he might be a qualified well driller because he's done them before. But he might be smart enough to say, I don't want to be a qualified well driller, and I'm going to get somebody else who is in the country and knows how to do it and is going to drill this well. And so that person could be an employee, or you could be hiring his company, and it's just a contractual arrangement, or it could be that he's cooperating with you in the sense of deciding what you're going to do when and what's the best thing, and they've got expertise that's going to inform you on what the project is going to be. And if they're going to do that, they're a cooperating organization. Because you want them in the application, and you want them to agree that they're accepting the responsibility to help make sure that some parts of it go appropriately. That makes them a cooperating organization. The other thing is the cooperating organization might have some kind of local expertise. They may, not just technical, they may have expertise in terms of connections in the community where you're working. It might be that you want to work in Ghana, and you're going to be working in this place in a particular area, and there's an organization that deals with all of the local communities and has people in the communities. It might be the church, for example. There's a church system of keeping contact with all of these communities, and you're going to use them to help you collect information about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and that kind of stuff. And they might be a cooperating organization. They would be effectively signing up to say, I'm going to help you with this project. I'm not going to pay for it. I'm not going to do the work, but I'm going to help you with arranging what you have to do.
How important is this on a scale of 1 to 10 from Rotary standpoint, in your experience? Having a number of cooperating.
If you need them, you need them, right? If you've got 2 Rotary clubs and neither of them knows anything about well drilling, then when Rotary asks you, why are you drilling that well and why is it that deep? What are you going to say? Well, I think 1,000 feet's enough. Okay. And has anybody else ever done one? And did they find water at 1,000 feet? Well, I don't know, but I think 1,000 feet's enough, don't you? It's usually enough. Yes. Anyway, so that's why you might need a cooperating organization. And the other thing is that those people you might need somebody to introduce you to them. So, if you need it, you need it. If you don't, then fine. You may have been working there, or the club that you're working with, your host club, you may be working right in their backyard, and they know all of these people, and they've got all of this stuff covered. That's great. I mean, it really is good if you do it. But sometimes you really do.
Huge conflict of interest could also exist.
Yes, and we'll get into that next on the next slide. Everywhere after you go through identifying all these people, then you got to talk about conflict of interest. Okay, other partners are usually Rotary groups, and partners is a term that isn't as well defined as it should be, but when it's defined as other Rotary groups. It could be Rotaractors, it could be individuals, but they are partners because the partners share the ultimate responsibility. If you have a cooperating organization, they agree to do something, but they are not legally responsible like the primary partners are. When you take in other partners, they don't sign as the same way the primary partners do, but because they're Rotarians, we consider them part of that partner team. Okay, usually you don't have those. Okay, an MOU is a memorandum of understanding, and there's a specific form you fill out for a cooperating organization that says what is it you're going to do and what part of it are you going to do, and it also has something about conflict of interest. The cooperating organization has to say that it doesn't have board members who are in the Rotary Club or any way of gaining financial benefit from working with the project or something like that. So it's not that hard to get them to sign it, but it's a specific thing. The MOU is actually an agreement between both partners, the host and international partner, and the organization. All 3 of them have to sign it.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
The example would be a Rotary Club member who owns the drilling company and all that type of situation. How do you get around it? Because he's the only one in the area.
Right. You would use him.
Okay. But then there is a conflict of interest an
Yep.
implied conflict of interest, but you've got to work around that conflict of interest.
Right.
Well, he can't be on the committee.
Oh, no, just can't get on the committee, okay.
Well, two things. There's two things. One is he has to be competitively priced. A guy who comes in and says, "Hey, I know how to drill these things, and I promise I'll give you the best price." Right? Okay, that's not good enough. You would have to show that he may be the only one in town, but if I go to another town, there's a guy, and he would do the same well for this price. I'm getting this price or better, and so I've got enough bids to be able to say, I know I'm getting a good price. All right. And then the other thing is, in this arrangement that we make, we've got a cooperating organization, we've got a Rotary Club. This guy, he may have been the one who developed the whole blasted thing, right? It was all his idea from the first place. He is not a member of the Rotary Committee that's doing this project. He is a member of the cooperating organization. And that's the way you deal with him. Okay? Okay. So you generally don't have other partners, and you generally don't have volunteer travelers. And people will trip up on that, but one of the things I would like you all to do is, if you understand it, this is one of the things you cross out. If I'm going to do a project in Ghana, and because I'm on the committee for my club, I want to go and see it 2 or 3 times during the process, that's not a volunteer traveler. Sounds like a volunteer traveler, but it's not. Because a volunteer traveler is somebody who's going to be paid by the project to go and do it. Volunteer travelers are like the vocational training team, except on a humanitarian project, it's limited to only 2, and they have to have very specific, very well-defined and required talents that are needed. We've got a club who's drilling a great big well in Togo, and it's really deep in order to get clean water. And so we got a well driller who can do it, but they're using Engineers Without Borders to make sure that he does it right. And the Engineers Without Borders guy is going to go from Alabama to Togo several times. I think he already has gone several times because they're about finished. And to make sure that they're set up and doing everything right. And they end up, when they build this one well that's 1,000 feet deep, they get fresh water. And they don't do something wrong with the lining, and they do, all those kinds of things that can go wrong because they're investing a heck of a lot in this well. And so that guy is a volunteer traveler, and he can be paid for by the grant. I don't think you pay his time, but he gets his travel paid for.
So Jim, it's not like having a member of the committee just because they've written or helped write the grant.
Right.
You're talking about someone that it actually needs to be there for the completion of the project.
Right. And the fact that you want to go and that you're doing oversight, that's not important enough, right? Yeah, you got the right idea.
And on the travel that you're talking about earlier, when you have the travel, is that a Rotarian?
Usually, but it could be.
It doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to be. Could be a guy in the church who's willing to come to your club and tell you what's going on, right?
Right, yeah. Okay.
I mean, eventually you're going to want to have a contact, right?
Sure.
So eventually you're going to be doing something, but you can start out anywhere where you're starting to develop this knowledge that you're looking
Well,
for.
I'm just thinking if I know the traveler that's going back and forth often, more often than say, maybe I am,
Right.
to have that, so that's good.
Well, we've got lots of situations where there's a traveler who has an interest in this, and they go back and forth, and every time they come back to the U.S., they come and make a report to your club, and everybody loves it, right? That's fine.
Could that be like a drilling bit salesman that happens to be going over to Togo?
It could be.
He just happens to know where they need a well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been going around there, and he sold a bunch of drill bits, and now they're saying, why don't they work? Okay, conflict of interest. Okay, there's a definition, I think it's in here. Where does it say? I think it was back in step 2. Okay, read the definition. Do any of the committee members have potential conflicts of interest? A conflict of interest is... Okay, so what does that mean? Really long run-on sentence. The very bottom of the first page.
Well, they will,
Or their company can directly or indirectly benefit. Yeah. Or their family or family member. Okay, so does your club have potential conflicts of interest? If so, raise your hand. Okay, you all need except Beth, you all need remedial conflict of interest training. Every Rotary Club has potential conflicts of interest. Every single one. Do you have in your club people who are on boards of directors of outside organizations? Yes, you do. Okay, do some of those organizations do humanitarian service? Yes, they do. And what's the chance that somebody who's on the board of one of those organizations, let's say, for example, he's somebody who's a deacon at the church, okay? And that person comes waltzing into your club and says, I've got a great idea for a project. Let me tell you about it. You got a conflict of interest, okay? As soon as that happens, you got a conflict of interest. You had it before, a potential conflict of interest, but now you got one because he's bringing you a project, and he is the most likely person to lead up the project, and he's on the board of the organization or a deacon of the church or whatever, and the first time that something happens with the money, and we sent them money, and they used it for something that we blah, 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 everybody looks to him. The church looks to him and say, why can't you get the Rotary Club to do what they're supposed to do? And the Rotary Club looks at him and says, why can't you get the church to do what they're supposed to do? And he's sitting there in the middle, and the next thing that happens is he quits the church and quits the Rotary Club and goes home and doesn't call anybody, because this is no fun at all. And I would do anything to keep Scott out of that position, right? And so I'm going to make sure that potential conflict is identified, and we figure out how to make sure that he's not in that position. And you do it by not letting him handle the money, right? He can be a representative of the church, or he could say, no, I really want to do this for Rotary, and I don't want to be a deacon of the church. And so you can resolve the problem that way, but it's easier to say, we got a whole club and we can find other people to manage this project. So, okay. So that's why you have it. How do you identify them? How do you control them? You can assume that everybody's got a conflict of interest until proven otherwise. And you can do surveys, and when you start to put together your team, you got to sit down and have a really careful discussion with everybody so that they know. It's not, my heart is pure, right? Because we all have pure hearts and we all intend things to go right. You don't want somebody to be in that situation when things don't go right. It's not their fault, but they'll get steamrollered. You don't want that to happen. Okay, and then you got to go through this with your partner club. They might not understand it. And it's very easy for the partner club, for the host club to have a conflict of interest. Okay? So, all right, enough about that. Anyway, and in here, all you got to do is say, it's all okay, or there's one person with a potential conflict of interest, and this is what we're doing about it. And if you do, I would write up exactly what we just talked about, and I would put it in that little paragraph, and it would just sail right through. You know,
It
that's
doesn't have to be death of the project.
no, it's not. It's perfectly okay to have people who are really interested in this. It's a good thing to have people who are really interested, and some of them are going to be a little too close to it. You just have to work with that. Okay, now you got to develop a project plan. Maybe you already have this. But what I want to do is ask you, and Beth, I need you to scribe. What should we include in the project plan? And I think it's best to have a plan that includes everything you envision that you want to do. If what you're doing right now is writing the application, one of the things you put up there is finish writing the application, right? And so what other kinds of steps do we have to have? Yep, you need a budget, okay? You need your goals, yeah? Are the goals the ones on the application? Maybe. There might be more. There might be more. Because we said you only want to have one area of focus. And so when you write the project, it's going to be, these are the goals that we're about, but you can have others.
Or schedule.
Timeline, when are all of these things happening?
Steps to get there.
Responsibilities.
Yes, responsibilities.
Personnel. John said personnel.
Personnel. Who's going to do it? What else?
Can you tell me where this is in the application?
The project plan. It actually is referred to several places. And there's one place where they want only a section of it, but there's a couple places where we're going to come back to it. And it's something that I want you to do because there's a couple of things that will add to this as we go through it.
So it's under step 10, sustainability, talks about project planning.
Yeah.
And that's its main focus, is sustainability.
Okay. So how about monitoring? Do you have to do something on monitoring? What do you have to do? You have to see how things are going. How do you know how things are going? You read the progress reports?
You better do them.
Oh, maybe you write the progress reports. Somebody needs to write progress reports. Who's going to do that? I don't know. Okay, so monitoring includes reports.
Reporting?
What else?
Visits.
Visiting. Okay. Yeah.
Site visits.
Buying materials. You might have to buy something,
You gotta know what you're gonna buy.
right?
You gotta buy.
Yeah, we had a budget, so it might be that your budget had that in it, but you got a materials list. Any project? A lot of people are pretty good at this because you've done projects other places. But as you think about all of this, it's going to get a little more complicated.
What about
There's-
maintenance? There's more than one way to drill a well.
Yeah. Yeah, you might have to, in the first place, you might have to decide what kind of well you want and what method you're gonna do to make it. Yep.
And quotes would have already been done by this point.
Maybe not.
So quotes,
You might have to do competitive bidding. Yep.
bidding.
In some projects, you need an NGO, non-government organization.
Yeah, and why would you need an NGO?
Well, some countries require that.
Mm-hmm. And what would that NGO be?
Well, it could be, well, we're doing a project, we did a project in the Dominican Republic, we're doing a project now in Nicaragua, and the country requires that if you bring money into the country, it's got to be overseen by a non-government organization.
So foreign country requirements?
Yeah.
Would that be?
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think that in that case you would say that yes, we need an NGO, and the reason the country is doing it is because they have specific controls for listed NGOs. In order to be an NGO in that country, you have to apply, you have to show stuff, you have to have the right bank account and the right credentials, and et cetera, and you got to sign a bunch of forms. So now you're an NGO. Those people are a cooperating organization in our parlance. That's what you would call them.
There's a sub-plan, in some areas, you actually have a sub-test plan is what you have, going through this total process.
A sub-test?
It says a sub-test plan, that's correct.
Okay.
What happens is, for example, the testing would be, again, soils testing, the whole gamut. You actually go through that process to verify that's where you're going to drill and why you're going to drill.
Al, are you saying that's what that is?
No.
No?
That's a separate entity.
Okay.
Okay.
So what, would that be a government requirement?
No, it's
part of the planning process.
it's part of the planning process is to have a test plan. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be like survey or something.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked about monitoring and reporting. Evaluating.
Evaluating.
What else?
I don't believe evaluating's up here.
Yeah, what do you evaluate? Like, are you getting what you want? Monitoring might include counting, but you have to count stuff. You're probably going to have some training. If you're doing a water project, you're going to train people on hygiene and things like that, right? You're going to train people on maintenance and things like that.
Requires
So-
to be sustainable.
Yep. Okay, and we're going to,
You want training?
so this is a good start. Okay, now we're going to look at sustainability. And so there's a section in here on sustainability. And when you get there, you want to start with that needs assessment, because starting with the beneficiary in mind is a really important thing. You can find lots of different ways of thinking about sustainability. And the list I put down here is from experience and also from RI. But RI has a little one-page thing called the 6 Steps to Sustainability, and that's a good thing to look at too. But you need to think about sustainability multiple ways, and one of the things we're going to find is that when you go through all of this stuff and you think about sustainability, you might add some things to this project plan that you just did. Okay, so you start with a needs assessment. And then it says, respect natural resources. Why do you do that? Why do you respect natural resources? Okay, let me give you an example. We're working on water, and the first thing we have to do is go out and collect water from the river. But sometimes, and we're going to purify it, and sometimes the river water is running a little low, and so we're going to build a dam. And when we build a dam, you build up a small lake behind it, you always have some water to pull off, so you can now purify the water and deliver it to everybody. Okay, what's the first thing that happens?
No fish migration. No fish migration.
It's true that there's no fish migration, but actually before that, somebody downstream is probably going to come break your dam. Okay? Because as soon as you started filling that up, they saw their river dry up, right? And what are they going to do? They're just going to curl up and die? No, they're not. They're going to walk upstream till they find out what stopped it, whether it's a beaver or you, and they're going to break a hole in it. And you can patch it all you want, and they're going to break a hole in it. And it's because you're not considering this as a natural resource. The more people you got living close to subsistence, the more people are 100% dependent on natural resources. So if you're working in an area where it's really close, don't think, well, they can always use bottled water. Can't they just, for a couple of weeks till we get it filled up and then the water will, no, I'm sorry, no, you can't. So you gotta really worry about what natural resources you're working with, who deals with them, and how do you manage that. If you say, I want to get water and it comes out of this little spring in the ground, but there's a whole lot of people using it, you've got a political problem to figure out how you manage that spring. Today, everybody goes there and whoever's in line first gets to take water until his bucket's full, right? And now you want to pump it somewhere and fill up a tank? I'm sorry, you're in trouble. You can't just do that because the first person who can't walk and fill up his bucket, he's going to break your pipe. Yeah, you can make a real mess. And it happens all the time, right? It happens unintentionally, so don't do it if you can foresee it. Okay, train the beneficiaries is an important thing for sustainability. Train them on as much as you can. If they can help with doing the project, if they can help with maintaining the project, if they can just understand how it all works, if they can understand how to, why you want to worry about sanitation and health and those kinds of things, the more you train them on, the more you've got sustainability because the more they're invested in the project. Use local labor. We found out after half a dozen projects in Haiti with building latrines, that the more you use local people to train other people, the better the training goes. And so no matter what it is, if you've got people who are learning stuff, use them to teach other people, use as much as you can. It works so much better because everybody gets invested in it and the training will be much better appreciated than if we do it ourselves. Buy locally because that way they can buy it. When they need replacements, they know where to go. And you're going to get stuff that's maintainable. Establish a maintenance plan and train monitoring people. People who can tell whether your equipment is working or not. So they'll know before it's broken. This happens in Haiti really a lot, that something breaks and people just say, it's broken. And that's the end of it, it's broken. We go back to the way we used to be. I go to the river and with my bucket and I get that dirty water and I bring it home. And that's all we got because the well's broken.
Oh, that must be hurt.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And so training somebody to actually go and see that it's starting to slow down. It doesn't pump as fast as it used to be. There must be something wrong with the impeller. We need to start making arrangements to get somebody to come and fix it before it breaks. Anyway, okay. So if you go through this, did we come up with any ideas that need to go on our list?
Spare parts.
Yeah, maybe spare parts. Yeah. You may have to find local supplies of things. And if you find local supplies, you might have to change your design. Right? You might have to say, well, we designed this well and pumping system at Oak Ridge with the smartest people on the planet, and lo and behold, they used titanium for all of these parts because it's really good in this application. You know, well, okay. Yeah, okay.
What do we call that? What do we call that, Jim? Buying local complications?
Yeah, yeah. Buying local ends up being all kinds of complications. You got to get
Local adaptation.
sometimes, yeah, you got to get bids locally, but you go to places in some countries and you get a bid that's only good until sundown.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a quote, but it's only good until today. You know, tomorrow, you know, new prices.
What do you get, maintenance manual or a user's manual?
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
about documentation.
Maintenance manuals and users manuals.
Operation procedures.
Operating procedures.
In the
Pictor-
right language.
In the right language, yes. And who's going to do this stuff in the right language?
Hopefully the manufacturer.
Or the host club,
The local.
you know? Yeah.
Host club preferred because the dialect can be different.
Yeah, most likely the host club, but they've got to sign up to do it, right? And so a lot of these things are just, the reason you think about it early and the reason you think about it with sustainability is going to make your project better.
Another thing, while you're on this topic, I've just retired from a civil engineering company.
Mm-hmm.
Western engineers like to go to the third world and over-design.
Absolutely.
I've seen projects fail for the lack of a 15-cent control fuse that they couldn't get to put it in because the engineer that designed it didn't take these factors into play.
Mm-hmm.
Literally shut down a project over a 15-cent fuse.
Mm-hmm.
Wire stripping.
Yeah. There's lots of things like that where over-designing is really common. And there are today in universities some really good schools that work really hard at trying to get their graduate engineers to not do that. And anyway, bless them. It's a good thing to do. Okay, so you should, after you go through sustainability, go back and look at your plan and stick some things in there because you're worried about sustainability. Okay, stewardship. This is another one of those words that gets everybody worried. What's stewardship? What does that mean?
Taking care of the resources.
Taking care of the money, taking care of the project, taking care of the material you have, all of that sort of stuff. Okay, so and taking care of the beneficiaries. Who's responsible for the stewardship?
Well, everybody, but the host club has got a big part of that.
The host club and the international club are both responsible. And they are both, as a lawyer would say, jointly and separately responsible. I think that's what they say. If one of them can't do it, the other one is 100% liable.
Jim, talk about the cadre, the technical advisors. Do you work with them?
I have. And
Tell the group what they do.
the cadre, they're a very interesting group, the cadre. There's these old guys. No, they aren't all old. But they are Rotarians who are technical experts in a field, and they're all old.
Jim's a guy, Tim.
Oh, well, he's pretty old.
Tim?
Yeah, Tim.
That's Jim. I said Tim.
I heard him say, well, anyway. So a cadre person is somebody who knows a technology and knows a region, and they will go and work with projects in those places. And so if you're doing a water project in Ghana, there is probably a cadre person in East Africa that's West Africa, in West Africa that would go there and look at your project and talk to the partners and see if you got all the right pieces in place, make some suggestions early, and at the end of the project, they might come back and make sure everything is working okay. If it's big enough, they will be required to do that by the Rotary Foundation. If it's not big enough, you can ask for them. You can take your project and you can send it to a cadre member and ask him to review your project. You can say, it could be one of the things you could put on your list is send your project to a cadre member and get a review. And I went to a cadre meeting in Toronto, and one of the things they said was, ask more than one cadre member, because you will get different opinions, and some of them are going to be better than others for your particular project. They're humans, and they're like everybody else. One of them is going to be way too technical. You know, and that's maybe not where you want to go, and you'll get better advice from a different one.
You know, Jim, I can tell you that I, as a board member, I was the board liaison to the trustees this year, so I went to all their meetings, and they have stewardship committees, and I can tell you, when they're looking at these big projects, they are really looking at cadre input, the whole issue of sustainability. It's a really interesting process when you look at how the trustees are handling their fiduciary responsibilities. Because there's a lot of money flowing through the foundation, as you know.
Yep.
More stewardship.
Yep. That's stewardship too. That's stewardship. Okay, so stewardship, you're responsible. And you need to figure out how you're going to exercise your responsibility. How do you make sure that everything's going okay? You can't just assume that it's all going to go according to plan, and after 18 months, we're going to get a closing report, and when they send us the closing report, we'll sign it off and the whole thing will be done. That's not very likely to happen. I don't know that it has happened. It's probably happened somewhere, sometime, but usually doesn't. Okay, so you need to think about that, and that probably ends up being on your plan too. Okay, so maybe there's new items there that you didn't think about. If you think about your stewardship, think about whether you want to add something on your project plan.
Do y'all want to add anything?
Okay, who doesn't?
We got that.
Maybe you need to have periodic meetings where you just say, what could be going wrong that we don't know about? How do we find out? You probably shouldn't assume, I don't know what you think here, but you probably shouldn't assume that if something goes wrong, they're going to tell you. You know what I mean? Okay, contingency planning. This contingency planning is a critical part of stewardship. If you're responsible, you better do some contingency planning. And the recommendation is you think about these three things, but there's maybe more. When you think about your project, think about what could go wrong and what you would do. And specific plans before you start on things like financial overrun. And your project, Scott, you're going to build a couple of schools. How could you have a financial overrun? How many ways? A lot of ways. What would you do if you have a financial overrun? You're responsible, right? You and the other partner. And here you've gotten into this and you've only built half a school and you're out of money. Now, what are you going to do? It has happened before. I guarantee you it has happened before. And it'll happen again. And so you need to think about that, because particularly if you're doing something with limited quantities, one school, then if you have a financial overrun, you need to come up with more money because you got to finish it. You can't say, I ran out of money and we built half a school. It doesn't have a roof, you know, and because we ran out of money.
When you're saying overrun, I assume you're talking about you had more money, you had money left over.
No, I meant, yeah, a financial overrun, you spent too much money.
Okay.
And so if you're, let's say you're drilling wells and you've got a project and these are relatively shallow wells and you're going to drill 100 of them. Then, okay, if they end up costing 10 or 15% more, you can decrease the number. Instead of 100, you can do 90 or 85. And that's still a perfectly good project. And that could be your financial contingency plan, is to do these in segments. So you do 25 and you have a financial closing. Did we do them at the right rate so that we know we're on track for the whole project? If the first 25 overran by 50%, you better be writing a progress report that says we're 50% over on our first 25. We're anticipating that instead of 100 wells, we're only going to have 75 or whatever the math comes out to. Right? And so that's okay, but it's a good way of dealing with that if you got something with multiples in it. If you have something where you're only doing one thing, then you better have other ideas for where you're going to get the money and how you're going to do it. Okay, what if you have reporting issues? What do you do if it's time for your first annual report and lo and behold, it's due next week? And here you are, your club has a board meeting and somebody says, hasn't it been a year since we got all that money for the grant? Somebody looks up and says, yeah, it's due next week. Okay, so what if you don't have anything to put on the report? What are you going to do?
Well, write a letter to the foundation and say you're working on it, so that they know you haven't fallen asleep.
That will buy you nothing. But I would do it too if I were you. But they don't give you any sympathy.
No, you just turn up on the stewardship report as being delinquent.
Yeah. Yeah, so what are you going to do? And what's your plan for that? And it may be that you've got to do your reporting other than on the annual anniversary. You ever thought about that? Why do we have an annual deadline? It's convenient. Why do you write reports on an annual deadline? It's not convenient.
You agreed to that.
You agreed to that, but it's actually not convenient because then you're doing it under the gun trying to get it in on time. So you ought to have a reporting plan that's based more on the project. I've divided my 100 wells up into groups of 25, and so after I've done 25, I'm going to write a progress report within 3 weeks, and I'm going to put that on my progress plan, on my project plan. Because that way, if I don't quite have all the data, I can either finesse it or go get it or whatever. I can figure out how to do it, and I've still got something that relates to that point. Okay, so that's a way to think about about reporting issues, but there's other ways to think about it too. So, think about how you're going to get your reports, who's going to get the stuff, make sure you know who's bringing it to you, all of those things. Okay, and the last one is communication. Now, why do you want to worry about communication contingencies?
The host club, communication issues.
You need to be able to communicate with the host club, right? Okay. How many of you have had projects and you've worked with a host club? Has there ever been a time when you can't talk to them? Why?
Technology, language.
Don't speak the language.
Technology, language, translation, culture. We have email, and we all read our email every day, and there are countries where they have email accounts, and they'll be glad to give you their email, and they will also be glad to tell you that they only look at it about every 3 weeks. So you send them an email and they don't respond. You send them an urgent email and they don't respond. And you send them another urgent email and they don't respond. You need a contingency plan because this isn't working, right? You're going to go 3 weeks and they're going to say, this guy's yelling at me, I came and I looked at my email and it's all full of messages from this one guy. I don't think I'm going to worry about that now. And so he's not going to look at it again for another 3 weeks. So what are you going to do instead? You better have a contingency plan. That's a contingency plan. Get on the plane. And maybe that's not your first contingency, right? Because you can have a whole lot of others, but that's not a bad one to have on the list to make sure that you try all the others. There's a lot of ways to have communication contingencies. And one of the biggest reasons why you need to have it is because when something goes wrong, something goes wrong with your project, the second catastrophe is that communication stops. Okay, that's when you know you're really in trouble.
So is there a list of best practices for all this stuff somewhere?
That's why I'm telling you. Best practices for communication?
Well, for any
You can find a lot of lists in different places, but I mean I can rattle off
No.
things,
What I'm
but
saying though is does Rotary have a best practices for this, a best practices for that, where we do after action reports and here's how we
Lessons
solve this
learned.
contingency? Do we have that? I don't know.
I don't know.
Do we, Greg? I mean, we did it.
I don't know exactly.
You know, we did at Ford and we did this in the military where you had best practices and, because we ought to have a list of all these things, you know, whoever heard of Kepner-Trago problem solving, right?
Oh yeah.
Because every time you make a decision, you gotta anticipate the impacts and stuff like that. It seems to me that the way I'm hearing this is everybody kind of solves the problem the first time themselves, as opposed to, here's how we solve this communication problems, here's how we did this. And I realize it might be endless, but there still should be some best practices there. Just some thoughts.
They might be there.
It's probably in the global data.
Yeah, one of the what I see as one of the problems of our documentation is when you ask a simple question like that, there is a 25 or a 50-page manual to go with your question. And people are looking for something shorter. All of us are, anyway. I mean, Americans.
And so are they, but they don't always practice it.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, but I sympathize, okay? I don't know. Okay, so you really do need to have communication backup. It might be that you've established a contact between your assistant governor and the assistant governor over there. And those two are talking about your project. And now you got somebody who can go and visit the club. And you talk to him and say, I've been sending emails, and you don't know if it's because the server is down or he died or he left the club or anything. He's just not answering. So what are you going to do? You might have somebody else, but it might be somebody who's outside the club who can go see. If you got a cooperating organization, they're often very good because they're more used to dealing with Westerners or Americans or whatever. And so you go to your cooperating organization, ask them if they can see what's going on.
Would this be a job for a member of the cadre group?
They might not be able to get there very quickly.
I was wondering, are they in country?
No,
Oh, okay.
not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shouldn't we be relying on the committee members of the host and the international club?
Well, that's probably your primary communication. And so my question is, what happens if that fails? You want that to be as robust as it can be. You want really good, friendly communication. If you're talking to the host committee, and you might want to run a test with your own committee, how many of those people on the host committee do you know the name of their wife and kids? Why do I need to know that? Because if you know that, then you know what they think about things, right? That's the kind of a relationship you want to have. Not just a contractual kind of, you do your part, I'll do my part, we'll get this thing finished kind of thing. Okay. So then the last question, what does that put on your project plan if you go through this? If you do contingency planning, you'll probably have more steps that you want to put on there.
Do you have a line that says contingency planning?
Nope.
Do the contingency planning and then think about what your contingencies are, because you got to put them in your plan. You got to build those relationships or whatever it is you're going to do. Okay, monitoring, evaluating, and reporting. We talked about that some more before on the project plan, but you might, or it's one of the sections in here. How are you going to monitor? What are you going to monitor? When are you going to report? All of that sort of stuff. Okay, so if you have it covered, then that's great. But there's a best practice for you, Greg. I talked about that. Link the reporting to events, not to the calendar. It's a good way to do reporting. And so there is a supplement that I can bring it up, and I don't remember if I had it over here. No, I don't think I printed it out.
Brought up a whole list of resources that are PDFs and docs
Yeah,
under
there's
global
some-
grants?
There's some on Rotary.org.
Yeah,
There are a few, but nothing quite like this,
yeah.
but it's a start.
There is one very good PowerPoint, it's 93 slides. If it's not in there, then call Rotary.
Yeah. Oh, and they'll add 94. Yeah. Okay.
I can't do that 93 pages.
They'll give you 93 slides.
There will now be 94. Okay. All right, we got to get going. Okay, measurement. We have to fill out measurement, and I've got a little handout related to measurement. For
Fred, could you get me one of those?
For water and sanitation, there's just these 2 pages. And so there's the standard measures. It's one of the things on the PowerPoint that will link you to the document, but it goes by areas of focus. And it talks about, for this goal, these are the kinds of things you can measure. These are the ways you can measure them. And it tells you about standard measures because, like we said before, Rotary wants to be able to roll up your accomplishments. You need to be measuring something that's relatable to other projects. So you want to select standard measures and standard ways of measuring it, and that comes right off of this page. It's the front page of this document, right? It says, okay, what's the total number of beneficiaries? How are you going to measure it? What's the number of people with access to improved drinking water? You might say, oh, I'm doing sanitation. I don't want to use that one. And so I'm not going to worry about it, but I'm going to worry about the one about improved sanitation. Oh, and it says improved sanitation in bold. That means somewhere there's a definition of what improved sanitation is. It's not just a trench dug in the ground. That's not improved enough to be improved sanitation. So you pick the measures that you are going to use, then you pick the way you're going to measure them. And if you look on the back side, it talks about the definitions of the different different data collection methods. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. You're going to pick some of these. You're going to pick the way you are going to measure it, and you say what your measurement target is. You can say, we plan to build 100 wells. Our target is 100. We're going to count how many we do, and you could say we're going to count them. It's going to be direct observation because we know how many wells there are. Okay, and then the next thing is, you might consider whether you want other measures. There might be measures that are based on sustainability. You might say, how many training exercises are we going to have in order to get people to understand A, B, and C? And so you've got a measure of those and a goal relative to how much of that you're going to do.
Can you use past experience with previous projects that you've been involved in? So I did this in 2010, and we did 25 wells, and I checked in 2018, and 24 of them are still working. Is that?
Frank did that on the Thailand.
Yeah.
Can you do that kind of thing?
He did
Is that-
several. And he referred back
Yes.
to
Okay.
other grants.
And so what is it you're measuring? You're measuring past grants.
Yeah, as a
And
measure of your capability.
It might be
execution.
a measure of sustainability of your
Yes,
projects.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And so you would say, yeah, and so that would be one that isn't a direct one that comes right out of this form because it is relating to what you're doing, but it's something that you think is of value. There could be all kinds of things that come up that are of value. Well, if you're doing sanitation, one of the things they do in India is they make, for want of a better term, poop-free zones. They have a community that is getting latrines, and everybody's doing open defecation out in the fields, and they think it's all just great. If you convince everybody to poop in a latrine, then you can declare your community a poop-free zone. And in India, they have these great big signs at the entrance to the community that says, we are and it's all in Hindi, whatever. We are a defecation-free zone. When you come into our town, we all have latrines, and we would be happy to have you use our latrines. We would rather do that than have you poop in our fields. And they're proud of it. This is, you better believe, they ought to be proud of it, and they are really proud of it. And so if I were working in that area, I would say one of the measures I have is how many poop-free zones I create. And I might find a better term for it than that, but that's basically what we're talking about, you know? And so...
He said no shit zone.
Okay. The international symbol for poop-free.
If I were trying to relate poop-free zones to improved health, some disease prevention, could I do a subsample of the population and then statistically evaluate that so I don't have to monitor the entire population? As long as it's a statistically reliable sample.
Yeah, I think you can probably do it any way you want, but I think people would tell you that it only takes one person to mess up a poop-free zone, right? And so...
No, but see, it's not the, when you put in the poop-free zones, what I'm trying to monitor is the reduction in dysentery.
Yeah, you're going to have, that's going to be hard to do. But
that's why I don't want to, I can't go out and
Yeah.
ask every person,
Right.
has your dysentery stopped? So I'll go and ask a subsample and then statistically evaluate that.
yeah,
Okay.
be careful with your surveys. In Haiti, we did surveys on diarrhea. We asked people if they had diarrhea. They all said no. And then we asked them how many times a day did they poop, and some of them said 10. So what do you think? They think it's pretty normal to poop 10 times a day. It's really bad for your health, by the way, pooping 10 times a day.
I would say.
It really is. Okay, budget. You have to have a budget. I think everybody knows how to do a budget. But you have to have a budget. At this point, you need to go through it pretty carefully. You need to consider that sustainability and stewardship, because there may be things you need to put on your budget that you wouldn't have put if you were just putting down equipment for your well or your latrines or whatever it is you're doing. So consider all of that stuff, the training, maintenance, monitoring. How are you going to have spare parts and all of that sort of stuff available? Anyway, so any questions about budgets? One of the most common questions is about competitive bidding and things like that. If you have big items, you need to do competitive bidding. If you have small items, you can look for competitive bids even online. You know, you can say, well, the price I'm getting in Haiti is 20% more than I can find the same item for at Home Depot in the US. I looked it up, and I think that's close enough because it's in Haiti, it's the one I want to use, end of story. And if you're buying something for $100, that's fine. You're not out of line relative to competitive pricing on whatever it is. But if you've got one each well and you're going to spend $20,000 drilling this well, you better have competitive bids.
What's the threshold for needing competitive bids?
I don't know that there is one. There might be one, but I don't know.
Is it for, you have to have it for everything then?
No, I'll tell you for sure, with little things.
I mean, it's 15-cent fuse, do I have to get competitive bids on that?
No. But you need to know that it's reasonably priced. And so, you know, I mean, that's some kind of knowledge of the marketplace.
So I have that well driller working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So there's a budget section in here, and you're going to put this stuff in.
How about budget contingency? You never have a project that always goes 100% like you think it.
You can have a contingency in your project.
Contingency funding.
Yeah. I forget what it is now, but it might even be 20%. It's 15? Okay. It's a reasonable amount. That can be part of a lot of things. Okay. Funding. All right. So this is a complicated thing. Remember I said at the beginning, we're not going to get to funding until we get finished. I didn't want you to start with, I've only got $15,000, how big a project can I do? So let's talk about your project. You're going to have 2 schools you're going to build. And
It's actually Liberian, I've got it.
okay, so you're going to go to Liberia and you're going to build 2 schools. And you've got all of that sort of stuff, and you think you can build 2 for $30,000. And I know that in Uganda it costs $53,000. So what happens if you got enough money for a $30,000 project or something on that order, but let's say it's $35,000, how much money are you going to put in? How much money does your club have?
You mean to cover the shortfall?
No, how much do you have to put into the project?
I don't know. I mean, how much do we have?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't got that far yet.
You haven't got that far yet. Okay.
But I mean,
So now's the time where you would start that and you would say, we have $10,000. And so with $10,000 in our district, the district will match that with 10,000 DDF. And then you do the World Fund match and you got $35,000. Cool. You can fund your project. But if it's 2 schools for $53,000 each, you're a little short. And so what are you going to do about that? You know, you look for partners and things like that. But I want to ask the people who are district representatives, how many of you are in a district position, a grants chair or a foundation chair or a district governor or something like that? Okay, you are. Okay. We all need to think about how we fund these projects. Because if you ask districts whether they have enough global grants, they'll almost always say no. Would you say no? You'd like to have more? Absolutely. We'd sure like to have more. Okay. Is global grant funding a challenge for clubs? Most people would say yes. They have a hard time raising enough money to get it up to that level. So what do you do about that? And is your district discouraging global grants because of its own internal funding requirements? Because if in our district we say, you can have as big a global grant as you want, as long as you come up with enough cash to do this one-to-one match with DDF, and then we get the World Fund match for that, everything will be fine. Go ahead. If you want $106,000, we can divide that by 7, and that's how much you got to come up with. You got $35,000.
Yeah.
And you might.
Yeah, I mean,
You might say, we got it. Or you might say, okay, well, I'm just going to go to the 3 other clubs in our area, and we're going to get help from them, and they'll give us enough cash, and now we'll go back to the district. But there's a lot of other things. The district could say, well, in this case, we're going to help them a little bit more than that. It's our rule that says we're going to do one-to-one. Or we could say, I know another district where we helped them last year on a project, and we'll go ask them if they'll help us this year. And we got this project, and if you got a good project, I know we can find people to do that. So what we have to do is get our districts thinking about where the extra funding is. And my challenge for all of us is that's a district job. So that you, if you're thinking about this project and your relationship with somebody in Ghana or wherever it is, you don't have to worry necessarily about all of this big picture funding, because we've got plenty. If you look at us in a large scale, think about our zones, we got plenty of DDF in our districts, and we've got plenty of World Fund money.
Jim, I talked to you earlier about the unused DDF in the world, 55 million. And the trustees are really getting nervous because people don't give money to Rotary to have it sit in district accounts.
right.
Right.
And so those of you that are in a position, you need to find out what your unused DDF is and plan for that. I mean, this is district specific. It is your money.
Yeah.
But the trustees, I'm telling you, they're thinking about what to do with this issue. And I believe starting in July, Jim, districts are going to be given 20% of their unused DDF as of this last year to spend over the next 3 years.
Jim, stand closer.
For district grants, right. For district grants, not global grants. So the trustees are going to let districts use some of their unused DDF to fund district grants. And we're going to see how that works.
Yep. And for some, particularly for those of us in this room, this is really cool, right? This is a really nice thing to have some unused DDF that was available for global grants that we couldn't use. When we roll it over, we always could have saved it for another global grant, but if we don't have enough global grants, it's tending to build up. And we can start using it for anything we want in our district grants. One of the things we can use it for in our district grants is a lot of efforts to build more global grants. You can pay for trips to go find the global grants and things like that. And so a lot of this pre-work you can put in your district grant, and we got funding coming in that comes from global grants.
Greg, how does that happen? What's the mechanism to roll that money over?
You will hear more about that, I think, by the end of September.
Yeah, we've asked, and we haven't found it quite defined yet, but
And
everybody knows we need a mechanism.
This is a trial balloon. But I can tell you, having sat with the trustees, that we've known about it for a long time, but it hasn't really been dealt with. And as that unused DDF has accumulated, some questions are being asked. So this is sort of the first effort to help to give some flexibility to districts to use this money, because it doesn't do anybody any good if you've got a lot of money sitting there. Some districts pride themselves on having all this money and they're not doing anything.
And it's crazy, but it's understandable. I mean, right? Saving is next to godliness. We save for our families, right? And everybody thinks that's the right thing to do if you've got money in the bank. So why wouldn't it be the right thing for Rotary? Well, we're a service organization. It's different. So anyway, okay, we're about done. Approval steps. At this point, we really have everything filled out there. You transfer it over. Now you've got to get everything approved. And so you're going to go through a couple of steps. The primary contacts approve it, and the application becomes locked. You can unlock it, but when you do, it kind of goes back to the beginning. So excuse me?
You lose all your
Yeah. Well, it says you do, and I've been surprised sometimes you don't, but okay. They claim that you do. So I think it's quite possible. Anyway, so it gets locked, and then you have to go and get all the contributing districts. If you've got other districts that are supporting, then the Rotary Foundation chair and the district governor have to sign saying that they approve this use of DDF for this project. Then one of the DRFCs approves a grant saying, I've reviewed every requirement in the Rotary Foundation and this grant's a good one. Then it becomes submitted. When it's submitted, then the partners sign, this actually happens really right at the same time. The partners have to sign a little responsibility statement, and sometimes we get hung up on this. If the partners don't know they have to do that, then the thing just stops dead in the water again. They've got to sign a legal document that says we're jointly and severally responsible for this project. Then it gets reviewed several times by several places by the Rotary Foundation, and it might get revised. They might send back some questions, and you change some things. Those questions generally don't require going back through all of that stuff. But then it gets approved, and now once it's approved, you're still not finished. You got to set up banking instructions, and they send money to the bank account that you've set up for the project. If you don't do that, you've only got a window of, I think, 6 months. If it doesn't get paid, that's what happens when they send the money to your account. If it doesn't get paid within 6 months, they can cancel the whole thing. I guess you weren't ready. You weren't really ready to do this if you don't ask for the money. So you got to be ready to do this, and that managing all of this is something that you want to put on your little plan too.
The two primary contacts are both need to be Rotarians, correct?
Yes? Yep.
Jim, I don't know if you're going to cover this, but I may not have my facts right, but I know we talk about cycle time, on how long it takes for a global grant once it's submitted. What is your take on that, Jim? Because I have a number in my head.
2 months.
That's a big improvement. Huge improvement. Yeah.
It has been, at times, it's been really poor. But one of the things is having a decent project before you start filling this blasted thing out, right? If you have it pretty well defined, then you're going to end up in the right place.
I got involved in one of these because someone said the staff disapproved it. staff up at RI can really be helpful to you. Particularly if you get on their good side and maybe go visit them, the expert in that area. But they're really there to try to, they want to approve projects.
Okay.
But they also have a responsibility to make sure it's done properly, right?
They do. There's an interesting little twist you can have with those guys. Back when you were at the end of the first part, right after the first hour, and you got your little 2-sentence description, call up your grants officer at the Rotary Foundation and read it to them and let them ask you a few questions. And if you're really on the right track, they'll say, I just can't wait to see your application. When are we going to get your application? And I mean, I've heard it. That's what they'll say, right? If you're not on the right track, they're going to tell you that, wait a minute, I'm not sure you got the right focus area. What you're talking about doing here, you missed something in the basics, right? But you've got all the basics in that little 2-sentence piece. And if you read that to the grants officer, you can get a big boost in confidence that you're ready to go. They will ask you some questions, but you're ready for those. Okay, so we go through approval. Now, I put this on because we've talked a lot about responsibilities, and as international partners, sometimes we think, like in Heart to Heart, it happens a lot, you think they've got it all covered, and we don't have to do anything. But my view is that the international partner has very specific responsibilities that they should accept for every project. And so there are some related to the completion of the project. You might have something you got to do because you got to order some stuff, or you got to supply some stuff, or you got to go train somebody on something, and that's part of what you're going to do. But besides that, you've got monitoring and communication things, and this is my suggestion, little old me, that the international partner should maintain the master schedule, the big schedule that you put together with all of the steps. You should know where you are on that and which things are completed. There are a lot of cultures that won't do that very well, and in our culture, we can always find an engineer or an accountant who will do that to the nth degree. And we can do it. We can say, these things have been finished, these things haven't been finished, here's where we are on the plan. And so maintain that for the team. Contact the host partner, and if you have a cooperating organization, contact them at least monthly. Make sure you talk to them. And it might be it's by email, but it might be it's by phone, might be a conference call. You can do, whatever, a zillion different ways of doing this. You can Skype, whatever. Okay, and then communication. Make sure that the reports are right. Take that as your responsibility and issue monthly reports to people who don't get copies of this. You'd be surprised how few people will see that the host partner and the international partner are the only ones that get a report that says, we accepted your progress report. Or get a report that says, you got something that's due. Or we have a question about something, why did this happen like that? And those two people are the only ones who are going to get it. The international partner should take the responsibility to make sure that everybody else who has an interest, like people who have put money in, or the district leadership of your district and the other district, make sure that they all know. If it's a heart-to-heart project, make sure that Ronapun knows, or this new committee that we're setting up that's the new Ronapun, with 8 people on it. Make sure that they know what's happening every month. And it doesn't have to be any longer than an email this long with a few says, we are communicating, we talked at this time, we got these items coming up, we've completed these items, we think we're on schedule, or we think we're a month behind, but we're going to do something about it. And you say that every month, and people start to feel like, well, maybe you got this under control. Somebody is actually tracking it. And if you tell everybody who cares that you got somebody that's tracking it, we're going to be a lot better off, because when things start to go south, then everybody's looking around for somebody who did something wrong. And we do have some that go south. So my recommendation is that you set up from the very beginning to write this little monthly thing. It's not going to RI, it's going to everybody who has an interest in the project. What do you think of that?
Great idea.
I think it solves a whole lot of problems we've seen. And it gives the international partner something to do that's important. It's a really positive contribution.
It also helps you out with future projects.
Boy, you got a record that you would have a hard time putting together.
Also, you got people to give money to these things,
Yeah.
and I know that's, I mean,
Telling them something about what's going on is a nice thing.
they got a better chance of getting people to give again.
Yeah. Okay. That's the end of part 2. I'm late.
Really late.
I'm really late. It's a good thing we got until midnight tonight.
10-minute break. 10-minute break.
Yeah, we have in the third part we got 2 presentations that we think will help you. So
Okay.